Welcome to the 3P Playbook, a show dedicated to youth sports where the 3Ps stand for play, progress, and prosper. On this show, we'll cover how to get kids to play sports, what keeps them entertained and involved in them, and then only that, but what can we do as coaches, as parents, as instructors to progress them in this sport? How do we get them better? And then finally, we have our prosperity aspect of it. What are these kids going to take out of this sport throughout their lives? What life lessons are they going to learn, or are they going to go to the next level? I'm your host, Pat Wilkinson. I'm here at the Knot, 37th Avenue South in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. If you're looking for a cool place to come take your family, kick back, have a drink, talk sports, come see my friend Roger here at the Knot. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Getting right into our very first episode, we're speaking junior golf. And junior golf has been a booming atmosphere in the past 3 to 4 years. And I have no better person to bring on the first episode to speak junior golf than one of the biggest ambassadors, if not the biggest ambassador for junior golf here at the beach in South Carolina, and that is Mr. Kenn Francis. Kenn, thank you very much for being out here on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this.
So we're speaking junior golf, and I know you love junior golf. All right, my daughter plays in the Kids Under Armour Tour. I know you've been around my family a lot when it comes to junior golfing events and everything else. But tell me, for the listeners out there, give me a little bit of background about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up playing golf. I was introduced to the game by my parents, who both golfed, and it was a very open invitation, so to
Yeah.
speak, which I'll touch on later. But it was basically, what do you think about golf? And I'd tag along with dad and run along the hole and find balls in the woods and things like that. And I always enjoyed athletics and played everything there was to play, which again we'll probably touch on later. But that's kind of how I got into golf, and then played some soccer in college, and after college decided to play golf
Wow. Cool.
professionally. So took a shot, some mini tour stuff and some local stuff, and found out I wasn't Tiger Woods. And that's okay. But I figured that out at a nice
Yeah.
young age. And so I became an amateur again, and started working in the sport of golf. When I first moved to South Carolina, I worked for a golf academy and helped grow their junior program.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the genesis of my love for growing the game with kids, because I was one of them at one point, ultimately, right?
Right.
And then, multiple positions along the way. Worked for a club manufacturer out of California for many, many years. And then Under Armour gave me the call, and this is how I ended up here.
Nice.
And that's where I grew the junior tour locally. So, kind of some luck along the way, to be honest.
Yeah, is that right?
A little misdirection, if you will.
Yeah.
Leaving school at 21 years old, I would say that, I didn't exactly have the greatest plan, and I liked science, but I didn't want to work in science. I loved sports, and I wanted to
right.
work in sports. So I was fortunate enough to forge a path in my career through sports, and obviously particularly focused on golf.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, you've been in the business for a while when it comes to youth sports and everything else. Tell me about the Under Armour tour. All right, how first off, you said they gave you a call. What's your
Yeah.
history with Under Armour? Because I love Under Armour. I think half of my wardrobe, if not three-fourths, is nothing but Under Armour.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and tell me
I
about it.
love hearing that, of course, and
Yeah.
we get that a lot, especially from people in athletics who are driven by performance and durability.
Yeah, right.
So, I was working for a club manufacturer and got a call from Under Armour. It was a recruiting call. We've got a job we're interested in talking to you about, and, are you interested? And so I, of course, listened, as any,
Yeah.
any adult I think would when it comes to their career. And, after a few months of going back and forth on what the role might entail and whether or not I was perfect for it or not, I received an offer on Christmas Eve morning, and that was 6 years ago.
Oh, cool.
So that's how I got to Under Armour. And then once I was with Under Armour for, I guess, the first year and a half, 2 years, the Under Armour Junior Tour contacted me, which is basically a subset of the Under Armour brand, and asked me if I would be interested in, spearheading the junior efforts in this area because of my background and my past, things like that. So, after going through the background check process and all those things that they require to deal with children, I off and running, and here we are in our 8th season. So 2 seasons a year, 4 years. It's That's how it happened, and it's been for not just myself, honestly, but for my relationships with the parents and the kids, and even my wife's relationship to the kids in the junior tour. Incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
I can't speak highly enough on that aspect, and I try to target that in every speech I give because at the end of the day, I'm not hitting a shot on this tour.
Right.
There's
Right.
not one single ball going in hole because of me making a 1 foot putt.
Right.
But involving these families and these kids into the sport in an environment where they can have fun, feel safe, compete, and make friendships, it's everything.
And I can say personally because the kids Under Armour tour was the first organized golf that my daughter Ava played in, and she started when she was 7, I believe, maybe just turned 7, but she's been playing in it, and she qualified for. Just first and foremost, I got to say the progression that I saw with her being able to play with girls that were, and it was a fun environment.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So like
that's huge.
so she was playing with a couple girls that were all about having fun. They weren't beating themselves up about their score and this and that. But for that age group in particular, they moved the tees up a little bit, give them a chance to make good scores and everything else. But it teaches them essentially how to maneuver that golf course and understand that, hey, look, all right, so this is your second shot. Let's see if we can't get it on the green. Maybe we can get a birdie here, this and that. But we have the ceremonies at the end of every round where we got medals that are given out, and I know you put a lot of energy into it, which definitely everybody else feeds off of. And
Good.
And I remember because I didn't at first. I thought that the girls and the boys were included in the it's 6 to 8, is it? Or
For the lowest age group, it's 6 to 8.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
So Ava's first event, I thought the girls and boys were included. So, we get done, and Ava didn't play bad. She shot the top of the girls there. She ended up putting the lowest score, but she didn't necessarily beat all the boys. So I was like, hey, buddy, good job, this and that. But before you know it, you had actually separated the group, and now we had a girls' division.
Yes.
So Ava was able, she ended up getting this first place medal out of the girls, which I thought it surprised me. And she'd been hooked ever since then. She's got a whole collection
She
of
does.
these. Yeah.
She has a lot of medals. Yeah.
But
It's amazing.
yeah, but you're giving the girls a chance to play as well, and the age, how many age groups are there in?
Yeah, there's 4 age groups: 6 to 8, 9 to 11, 12 to 14, and 15 to 18, which is predominantly dedicated. I should say dedicated, but it's predominantly consumed by varsity and junior varsity golfers in high school.
Yeah.
But back to what you were mentioning about Ava's first experience and the girls being separate from the boys. The brand of Under Armour has done a really good job over the years, especially in the last decade, of recognizing the accomplishments of women in sport.
Right.
Way overdue.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that overdue by Under Armour. I'm just saying it's overdue in the world.
Yeah.
There's some female athletes out there that are, oh my goodness,
right.
Straight up amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked at it, I say the brand, we looked at it from a perspective of we should be lifting everyone up in their category, right?
Yeah.
There's the boys category and there's the girls category, and the girls should compete against the girls. And we named the initiative Girl Power, #Girl Power. And I'm telling you, as soon as that was announced, it took off like wildfire, and all of us directors around the country were like, this is how it should be.
Yeah.
Girls should compete against girls. Co-ed is challenging, especially as they get older.
Right.
An 11 and 12 and 13-year-old boy is stronger and faster than most 11, 12, 13-year-old girls.
Absolutely.
That's just the nature of the physical makeup of a human being.
Yeah, right.
And it's not really fair.
No.
It's just not fair. And at the end of the day, like I mentioned earlier, the environment that we're trying to create in the sport of golf should be for lifting kids and people up. Let them have fun. If they become a tour player down the road and they're on TV, well, that's great. But at the end of the day, for the here and now, it should be for that day. Was it awesome? Are they leaving, going home in the car with dad and mom saying, I had a great day.
Yeah.
I can't wait until I do it again.
Right.
That's the win. Right?
Absolutely.
The trophy's great, the medal's great, but that's the win.
Exactly.
And you can't do that if the boys and girls are competing against each other as much, I believe.
Right.
So I was on board 100%, just like the rest of the brand and the other directors around the country. I think we're 60 leagues now, so nationwide.
Amazing.
Yeah, the growth has been massive. But yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that because that's a really big deal to the sport.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, and how long did you say the Under Armour tour was when was it founded?
Yeah, that's so this is gonna be this year 2024 is the start of year 5.
Awesome.
So they had, I believe, 2 seasons prior to me.
Right.
So 10 seasons
Okay.
because I'm in my 8th.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's still young in its overall embodiment, really.
Right.
But man, the growth has just been
Yeah.
special.
Yeah. They now and they have a spring season and then a fall season or the winter series.
Yeah, spring and fall, correct.
And they also have a nationals and
Yep.
then they have a worlds for
Correct.
both.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, actually at the end of this week, I'm taking Ava down
the
to Destin,
nationals.
Florida. We're
Yeah.
going to go down to the nationals and see what we can do. It's her last year playing in the 68. Then she moves up to the big girl tees off
Yeah.
the Reds, for
Yeah.
her next division.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah, because champions go to the nationals, and Ava's
Yeah.
a champion. So yeah, I wanted to say, make sure I said that.
right.
Ava's a well-deserved champion as well. So yeah, nationals are coming up. There's a winter nationals which follows the fall season,
Uh-huh.
and there's a summer nationals which follows the spring season, and then there's a world championship which is also in the summer. And the world championship this is going to be its second one. The world championship is basically for all the folks who competed in the nationals and performed at a high level to be able to get an opportunity to take it to a world stage against cultures, players, and individuals from other parts of the world. Brazil and China and Australia, and I mean the list goes on and on.
Yeah, right.
Canada, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just for the stacking up against other kids around the world aspect, but again, forging friendships,
Absolutely.
building relationships with other parents and other kids. The trophies are great. I can't say that enough, but the win is the relationships.
Right.
And at Worlds, you get a little bit more exposure.
Yeah.
I think the player that won her age group last year was from São Paulo, Brazil.
Oh yeah.
Spoke mostly Portuguese and very little English, but now they're friends with kids in the Carolinas and Florida and Michigan and all over the country. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they have the nationals, they have the worlds. Now during the normal season, I know we just came out with the roster for this year in the spring season. How many golf courses do we have? And especially talking golf at the beach here, I know we've been able to play at really, really cool places.
Yeah.
And I've actually been jealous because I'm on the bag, caddying for Ava. She gets to play, but
Flinging the stick.
yeah.
Yeah, there's obviously here in Myrtle Beach we have a tremendous amount of golf courses, close to 90 if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
We've been very fortunate to have the relationships with golf course owners and professionals and GMs and directors of golf, obviously, to be able to take us in
Right.
and give us a hug and say, "You're welcome at our place." So in a season, we need to play 6 9-hole matches. This particular season, 2 of those are going to be 18 holes, which is now a newer feature of the tour.
Yeah.
We find that to be an advantage in the scheduling sense.
Right.
For not just our end, but even for the parents, where instead of it being 6 separate weekends, now it's 4 separate weekends. And if you're going to be at the course anyway for 2 hours, why not 4? Right?
Yeah. Right.
So that's been a nice little change. But the ability to get a golf course in the spring and the fall in Myrtle Beach is really challenging.
Oh yeah.
Right? There's a lot of tourists in town, and they're enjoying our weather, and they're here on their golf trips, and that's what our golf environment is driven on. That's amazing.
Yeah. Right.
It just makes it a little more tough, but we've been really fortunate, lucky, and ultra thankful to have these people say, "We can give you a spot. It's this day, it's this time. Come on out, bring your tour, and do your thing," right?
Right.
And so ultimately, I hope that continues. We've been fostering relationships for many years, me specifically, as well as our brand.
Yeah.
And even the junior tour. And like you said, I mean, shoot, our lineup last season was unbelievable. I mean, we had 4 of the top 5 golf courses in the area on our list.
Mm-hmm.
And that was great. We have another great lineup for this coming season. We're very, very lucky. And getting golf courses is, it's a love and hate relationship. It's what's needed for the tour.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of time, and there are some no's, and
Right.
and that's okay too. I mean, that's part of what
Sure.
we're asking.
Exactly.
But coming from the world of golf and the world of relationships in the sport of golf, when we can go to a facility, showcase what we have, the kids take care of the place and they all do the right thing, and we get in and out of there with a lot of hugs and a lot of thanks, and again, that's the win.
Yeah, exactly.
Trophies are great. I'll say that till the day I die, but it's other things that are the big win.
Dude, and every event when we get done, you see kids playing with each other. You see them running around and this
Yeah.
and that stuff. You can tell that the relationships are there and they're being forged and everything else. And
Yeah, for sure.
and like even on the nationals level, we were last year when Ava was playing in the national tournament in Destin, Florida. So not only that, but you get to go to Destin, Florida,
Mhm.
to go hang out over there. But so a lot of those parents, we were exchanging numbers, everything else. The kids had a great time playing with each other, regardless of how, whether they played really good or really bad. But you can definitely see. So I can only imagine on the, the worlds, the types of relationships that are established out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. And I've been fortunate enough to watch that take place
Right.
firsthand, front row seat to families and friends who are now they're eating dinner with each other and they're seeing each other at events and they're planning other things together. And whether it's inside the sport of golf or not, because that is happening as well outside of just our platform,
Right.
they're building friendships. And kids nowadays, they most of them have a phone, so they're texting their friends, can you play 9 holes on Saturday, or do you want to go practice, or
Right.
do you want to go to the Taylor Swift concert, or whatever it may be, right?
Exactly.
And that's taking place regionally, nationally, and globally.
Yeah.
When a young golfer can be involved in something that gives them dividends and rewards outside of actually striking a golf ball,
Right.
you've
Yeah.
you've picked up something
Oh, yeah.
that's really good for that young person. And young kids, they don't care if hanging out with their friends involves throwing rocks in a river, right? Or
Yeah. Exactly.
tossing a frisbee around a pool, or batting a beach ball, or whatever it may be. It's what takes place at the end of our events as well. And kids are running around on the grassy areas. And there's no truth to the rumor that the coach Kenn has jumped in on some of those events as well.
Sure.
I've
Oh, yeah.
little bit of wiffle ball, various things, and tossing a football. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's really all cool to watch. And I I get the best seat in the house,
Absolutely.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, here on the 3P playbook, all right, we got the 3Ps. And so let's open up the playbook real quick and let's just talk about playing in general.
Okay.
All right. What all is out there? I know we'll preach the Under Armour Tour because it's awesome, right?
Thank you.
But what else is out there for, let's say we have a kid that just is just starting with golf, right? They want to go out there and they want to try it out. You have a parent that's like, all right, what's my first step to get my kid to play?
Yeah. The $1,000,000 question,
Right.
right? And this is probably the one that I like fielding the most.
Great.
Because again, I've been down the path and I've also helped fester some of those paths for various kids and families along the way. The first and foremost thing that I will say is it needs to be a fun environment.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a single youth player, especially the young ones on this earth, who are playing in the Masters.
Right.
Right? They're not playing in the Open Championship in Scotland or England or wherever it may be. They're building something. It
Mm-hmm.
needs to be fun first.
Right.
Because of it being fun first, I always start with the outlets that are the most fun. Things like putt-putt.
Right.
Things like going along with maybe someone in their circle of influence, like a family member or a friend, and just riding along, seeing what it's like out on the golf course. Hand them a putter on a hole and let them make a putt if they're truly that new to the game. So I think the first circle of influence is, the family and the friends that are close to that individual, and giving them opportunities. Whacking a bucket at the range.
Yep.
And I say whacking because it should be whacking.
Right. Yeah.
That's what it actually should be.
Sure.
Tee that thing up, grip it however you want, and mash it.
Yeah.
You just whack the crap out of it.
Right.
And let that be kind of an introductory aspect.
Yeah.
Fun first.
Mm-hmm.
When you start talking about those levels of fun beyond, say, putt-putt or Top Golf, or those sort of environments, or even a simulator that might exist in a pub,
Yeah.
or Pop Stroke opening here soon in Myrtle, things like that. Let them enjoy all of the aspects. Let them pick a favorite player on the tour or the LPGA tour. Let it be Nelly Korda, let it be Rory McIlroy, whoever they want it to be, right?
Yeah.
Keep all of those things fun and engage them that way.
Right.
Beyond that, when it comes to growing them into the sport,
Mm-hmm.
see if they're interested in going to an academy. There's a lot of youth academies in town that run in the summer. It's typically a week long at a golf school. One that comes to mind is one that I helped grow back in the day, Classic Swing at Legends. Great program.
Yeah.
4 hours, 4 or 5 days in the summer. Very inexpensive. They gain a ton from that. There's fun involved.
Yeah.
There's probably going to be a cupcake here and there along the way, you
Right.
know.
Oh, yeah.
And other things and little games.
Sure.
Those are great outlets, especially for the younger player. If that younger player is interested and has the bandwidth, let them work with and talk to someone who is in the sport of golf, whether it be hanging out at a golf course helping pick the range,
Yeah.
or maybe it's getting a lesson from someone that they trust and or love. It could be a family member or a friend. You know, your brother comes to mind, people like that, right?
Yeah.
So those are really some of the better ways to be involved and to get them into the game. And of course, one step above that would simply be the avenues for competition.
Yeah.
The Under Armour Junior Tour, South Carolina Junior Golf Association, PGA Junior League.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things out there that kids can be involved in. And they all kind of have their own little thing, right? I mean, the Junior Tour is individual. It's 9 holes. There's medals. There's nationals. There's worlds. PGA Junior League is a team event, right? You're part of a team. So that's different.
Right.
And South Carolina Junior Golf Association is even different than that. They
Yeah.
play on Mondays. It's all local. I mean, there's a lot of those avenues around. And I've said for, you know, ever really, every kid's going to be different.
Yeah.
There'll be some kids that will love the competition aspect of the sport, and others are going to be the weekend warrior, if you will.
Right. Yeah.
They're going to grow up in the sport of golf with their family or friends, and they might take on a job, a teacher or a police officer or an accountant or a nurse. And then they're going to play on the weekends with their friends.
Sure.
And play music loud, which I'm a fan of.
Right.
And do what they want in sport of golf recreationally. Every kid's different.
Yeah.
We won't know that in the beginning. It takes time to fester that kind of knowledge, right? And build where they live in the sport of golf. But there's a lot of avenues.
Yeah.
Even, you know, from the fun, the very elementary sort of fun, let's just beat some balls on the range and, you know, and laugh about it, to a league at Top Golf or an instruction or putt with your buddies every Saturday morning, whatever it may be, all the way up to national championship.
Yeah, right.
You know, there's a lot of avenues.
Sure. Now, moving on to the progression, right? Let's say a kid's playing, all right, cool, and they love the sport. Now, I've always said that you cannot force a kid to love a sport, but you can also, as a parent or as a coach or as an instructor, you can make them hate the sport.
100%.
So so let's go through. Let's speak the Under Armour Tour for a second. Parents have the ability to be able to be on the bag, right, to caddy for their kids.
Encouraged.
Now, what are some do's and don'ts when you're on that bag?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty loaded question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to give you the shortest version I can.
Right.
The first, let's do the do's, right? Let's do the positives first, because that's kind of my vibe.
Right.
Do create a fun environment for that child, right?
Yeah.
Do make friendships. Do encourage even the wrong things that take place, because the sport of golf is really hard and it's ultimately individual.
Yeah.
Right. So the player is responsible for everything that they do. Even if caddy, dad, mom, brother says, hey, we should hit a 7 here and it should have been an 8. The player is ultimately responsible for the outcome.
Yeah.
That can be really challenging, but always have the encouragement aspect in the do part of your question.
Right.
In the don't part of your question is really one thing that stands out to me: limit expectations.
Yeah.
And I've recently spoke on this. I've had a lot of conversations about this in similar platforms to your podcast, but expectations are killing the sport of golf with kids. And a lot of times it comes from an actual number. We gauge their play on numbers.
Right.
You know, what did you shoot today? Okay, I shot 40. Well, that's good for first. Well, what did you shoot today? I shot 35. Well, sadly, 2 people shot 34. You're in third. Right? We gauge it based on numbers, but the expectation of shooting a number is the cancer of the sport.
Yeah.
And I hear it all the time. A young player will show up. Them and their caddy are talking about maybe the things they did during the week and maybe some practice or pitching and chipping, work they've put into their craft. And I want to go and shoot par today. Immediately I cringe.
Yeah.
Because that's not fair.
Right.
That's not fair to a tour player, let alone a young golfer.
Sure.
So I think managing expectations is the biggest don't that should exist when kind of growing the mindset of a youth golfer.
Yeah.
let everything take place shot for shot, because this is a unique sport where a great shot can become a bad thing and
Yep.
a bad shot can become a great thing.
Right.
We've all seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen a terrible shot bank off a tree
Yeah.
and end up a foot, or maybe even in the hole or whatever.
Yeah.
Or a player hits a rake by a bunker, it pops it up and it's on the green, they roll it in for birdie. That's just the nature of the beast, right?
Sure.
That is the sport of golf.
Yeah.
Expect the unexpected.
Right.
Well, keep those expectations off the table first and foremost, in my opinion.
Yeah.
At every level, really.
Yeah. Gotcha. So after a round, let's say if you did need to work on something, right? How do you approach that? Let's say let's say Ava's age. All right, so we're talking an 8-year-old. Okay, and I'll give you an example of this. First and foremost, before I get into that, us as parents and as coaches, instructors, or whatever, we got to be mindful about the example we're setting as well. And I'll say this because me and her were out playing one day, and this was right before we went and played on just one of our normal events with Under Armour, and I missed a little 3-footer, and I reached over the hole and I popped it back, and made it, did the whole reach over.
Yeah, you raked it in, which is technically illegal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Guess who did that during the Under Armour tour the next day? You
She
know what I
did.
mean? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But then before, and of course I'm like, what just happened, kid? We don't do that. But who's setting the example over here? She saw me do it. I'm
you.
dad, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but so when we start working on specific skills, right? I found it that especially when you're dealing with the younger kids, you got to do a little short burst
Oh, yeah.
because I mean, especially in the day of swiping through videos and everything else, that attention span and that interest can go away very, very quickly. So, in your opinion, what's a good practice session with a kid?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, because I think that it should revolve around a goal list.
Yeah.
Every player, even at Ava's age 8, and others like her or even younger than her, there should be some sort of layout for goals. And it doesn't have to be a thesis like I had to do to get out of school, right?
Yeah, right.
It should be short and limited, but it should have 4 or 5 things that will grow over the years, right? And why I think that is important is because it gives a player the opportunity to have a tracking metric in their game.
Gotcha.
Always create a goal-oriented list, and then work and build and mold it as time goes on. But the most important thing on that list should always be the short game.
Yeah.
I'm one of a million people who talk about golf in the world, right?
Right.
But I think that if you ask the top 50 instructors in the world, 2 of which are in our state, they would tell you that grow your short game.
Yeah.
That's how you score.
Right.
And the tour players that we watch on television, there's a few big differences between them and even a scratch golfer at a club.
Yeah.
But one of them is that their short games are unbelievable.
Right.
They get up and down like they're supposed to, miss the green, get it up and in a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big number, right? And that's one of the biggest differences that we see in the growth of a player. It's great to hit it far. It's great to hit it straight. It's great to hit all your greens, but the game is not going to allow everyone to do that all the time. It's part of the way the game just is. Toss in 20-mile-an-hour wind, and hitting greens in regulation could be a real challenge for a 9-year-old player.
Yeah, right.
Regardless of talent. So the ability to chip and putt well should be the focal point of that list. Back to the start of your question. When the round is over, there should be a review with the player and or the caddy or the spectator, the parent, the brother, the sibling, whatever it may be. Where were our strong points today? What are some of the things that we did well? What are some of the things that we would like to work on immediately? And what was your shot of the day? Every time I play, I've been playing golf for 43 years, I always ask the people I play with at the end, what was your shot of the day?
Yeah, right.
Because again, I want to encourage them and remind them that they did something amazing.
Yeah.
My wife is a high handicap new golfer who chipped one in yesterday for Paul. It's obvious that's her shot of the day.
Yeah, right.
But we've talked about it 3 times since that took place. Because with kids, that reinforcement of what was your shot of the day, let them talk about it.
Right.
Let them engage in that. It's going to help drive them. It's also going to help them change their list and mature with their list. So start with a list, start with a worksheet, if you will, 4, 5, 6 things on it, and dig from there.
Yeah. Well, how long do you think a practice session should be?
If it's a short game session, it should be 60 to 75% of the total time.
Yeah.
So if a player's ability to practice in a week is, say, 2 hours,
Yeah.
around an hour and 25, 30 minutes should be from 50 yards and in.
Yeah.
And that's where I gauge short game number. Some people say it's 100 and in. Well, young people, it's really 50 and in.
Right.
Because their 50-yard shot is more like an adult's 80 or 90-yard shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So always focus on the pitching, chipping, and putting for the most of the time. And I think that everybody's ability to put time into their sport is going to be different. Some kids are studying at a high level, or maybe they're in programs involving math and science and technology and so forth, so on, a STEM program maybe.
Yeah.
Or they have other activities, could be Girl Scouts, could be gymnastics, and those are great.
Yeah.
And we at Under Armour really encourage being multifaceted within sport, activity, and hobby.
Absolutely.
We encourage it 100%. If you're a solo artist, that's not the best way to go.
Right.
So everybody's path is going to be different.
Yeah.
But it should be when they want to do it, number one, when it stays fun, and when they have a goal to go after. And that goal could be as simple as, my feet are maybe a little bit dancy on a pitch shot.
Right.
Let's work on footwork today. Could be a 20-minute session and they get it.
Yeah.
Could take 40. Every player is different, right?
Sure.
But if a young golfer, say 14 and below, because after that they might be very dedicated to the sport because they have a goal beyond, which again we'll talk about later. But be under that age, it should still be fun, and it should be when time permits. And obviously school should never take a back seat to practicing golf. Right. And I'll say that until I could get fired tomorrow, and I will stand by the fact that school is first.
Absolutely.
And that needs to always be number one. And I think parents who want their player to succeed in a sport or a hobby will most likely go by that as well, right? Because we all know that's the path to a great future.
Absolutely.
And that's never going to change. And be educated.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I guess every golfer in every situation is definitely going to be different, but that's probably a pretty decent layout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the third P obviously is prosperity. All right. I'm a firm believer there's so many life lessons that are learned in sports, especially at a youth level. I mean, you learn how to take on adversity. You learn how to be mentally tough sometimes.
Sure.
You learn that if you put in the work, good things can happen. What are some life lessons that golf has not only taught you, but that teaches our kids?
Yeah, what you just mentioned is actually is 100% true, and I think there's one other aspect of that oftentimes gets overlooked, and that is that in order to develop in life and or sport, you need scars.
Yeah.
Right. You need to get punched in the mouth in order to build and grow effectively. Everybody knows that Michael Jordan talks about the failures to become successes. Kobe, who is one of my life's hero, because of the amount of work he put in and that mentality that he had. And I live by that. And I think that building scar tissue is first.
Right.
Take the hits and take them well.
Right.
It's okay to be upset when you lose. We are all going to lose.
Right.
Rare does someone win at a 1,000% clip in anything they do.
Yeah.
Take the losses, hold on to them, soak them in, understand how it makes you feel. That will ultimately help you drive your practice, your competitiveness, not just in a sport, but even in school, or maybe the job you're after, or maybe the relationship you're trying to forge with a neighbor or a schoolmate or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
None of those can do well unless you get scarred, take it in like a champ, and build from it.
Right.
Losses are enormous to become a champion.
Yeah.
Right? Kids will cry when things don't go their way. I see parents getting so upset with their child crying after a loss. In a perfect world, would they not cry? Because who wants to see someone cry?
Right.
I feel bad for them innately. I do anyway.
Right.
But it's okay.
Yeah.
Their emotion is their emotion. Let it be their emotion, right?
Right.
So, back to the start of your question. If you're going to prosper in sport and in golf especially, get beat up, get knocked down, get your butt up, and then chase something different. And it could be you got knocked down because you couldn't get up and down on the last hole.
Right.
Maybe that's what knocked you down. Well, guess what your focus should be that day? Chipping.
Right.
Advancing that through your life, the opportunities that will come up in college and university, or maybe it's the military, which I'm a staunch supporter of kids, serving the country. Believe in that 100%. Whatever it is,
Right.
let them get knocked down, punched, let them get hurt, let them build scar tissue.
Yep.
That is going to help them. We're adults. We know that. We've
Right.
been down that path. Kids don't know that. That's not in
Mhm.
their DNA to understand that naturally. It's our job should be to guide them in, hey, you didn't have your best stuff today.
Right.
You took it. You took it on the chin today. You know,
Mhm.
there was no helmet protecting your head from the punches you got today.
Right.
Right? And that's okay.
Yeah.
Ultimately, things will come from that are way better.
Yeah.
Especially past the sporting aspect.
Yeah.
And again, you and I know that we're adults, right?
Sure.
And we know that we've had successes in our life, emotionally, spiritually, physically, whatever, because of the scars.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And where can golf take these kids?
So many places. I
Yeah.
mean, it is unbelievable. Every now and again, I'll peruse things like the job boards that exist in the sport of golf. I mean, they are everything from merchandising, security at tour events, to golf shop assistants and professionals and tournament managers, and I mean, you name it. The list is so very, very vast because the sport of golf there's so many levels, right?
Right.
There's the owner of a driving range level, there's the guy picking the range,
Mhm.
and then there's all the way to the CEO of a tour,
Right.
and everything in between. In my particular path, I have found it always very unique that I took a mentality into the sport of golf, specifically from the sport of basketball.
Mhm.
And that afforded me the ability to continually grow in the sport, be given more opportunity in the sport, be promoted in the sport,
Right.
and ultimately have a position that I'm extremely comfortable and lucky to have now in the sport.
Yeah.
That sport of basketball mentality, again, not to revert back to Kobe, I'm a big Kobe fan.
Oh yeah.
And I believe that the Mamba mentality culture is it's lost a little bit nowadays, but those
Yeah.
who believe in it and have it are always going to work hard, and they're always going to listen
Yeah.
and ask questions
Mhm.
and continue to learn through hard work so that opportunities arise.
Right.
Well, in the sport of golf, most people are going to, hopefully go to school or go serve in the military or whatever it may be. And then if they really want to be in the sport of golf, there's going to be an entry level position for them somewhere, some way.
Yeah.
And then through those work ethics and the ability to listen and ask questions and continually do the right thing can get them all the way to different positions. And I'll revert back to one of my first jobs. I'm not going to say the company's name because that would be unfair to them without
Yeah.
their permission. But I worked for a club manufacturer,
Right.
and I started at essentially the lowest job they had in the company, and it truly was an absolute entry level position. There was the pyramid of workers, and then underneath that pyramid was my job.
Okay.
And I took that as a starting point because I knew that through work ethic, I'd have opportunities.
Yeah.
That was a 10.5 year stint before I left for Under Armour. And every year for 10 years, I was promoted. I started at the bottom,
Right.
and then every year with hard work, got an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I kept saying yes and yes and yes and yes. And ultimately, at the end, I was leading 180 people nationwide.
Oh wow.
And so that particular story, I think, is actually really consistent even at green grass level, management level,
Mhm.
club manufacturers, tournament level.
Right.
Do the work.
Yeah.
The sport of golf, not just in the ability to play it well or poorly, but it's one of those things where through careers and what it can give someone as a career will always go back to how hard of a work ethic they have.
Yeah.
That's what golf festers. Nobody in management in golf who
Mhm.
makes way more than us didn't put the work in.
Right.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
So always be the hardest worker in the room. Always ask the most questions.
Yep.
And for the love of God, be kind to people.
Right.
That will just take you to the moon, you
Yeah.
know? And that's what
Sure.
our sport is. And my wife says it all the time that you'll find a lot of nice people in the sport of golf. It's true.
Yeah.
It does give life lessons, like you mentioned earlier, that can give some scarring, some discipline.
Sure.
That word I think is underused, but it can give you discipline, which ultimately, will create a higher level of manners, respect for other people, the ability to shake hands, look someone in the eye, tell them exactly what you're thinking and how you feel.
Yeah.
There's no reason two adults or even two kids can't have an open conversation about anything.
Right.
They're just conversing. Nowadays, I think there's so much of that lost, where people can't have an adult conversation and a difference of opinion. What's wrong with that?
Exactly.
That's okay. Talk it out.
Yeah.
And I think the discipline really, allows people to do that, especially young people growing in that aspect of their game and their life.
Yeah.
They'll get chances down the road if they want them.
Yeah.
They have to put the work in.
And I know, and we'll kind of wrap it up on this, because I got to ask you, definitely with golf, junior golf, and I played junior golf growing up and everything else, right? So many great memories were made when I was playing. One example, do you remember Rolling Hills in Aner?
Yep.
Right? So my old man used to run that place, and
it's a
and
great old place, man.
yeah, I would go to work with them every morning. I'd go out there and hit balls and this and that. Well, I played in my first tournament there, and I was like, I don't even know if I was old enough to really play in it, but I was there playing. And I remember being on number 9, and I had probably the way I had a massive putt, when I was like 6, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just a long distance, but I remember like the hills on the left, there were a bunch of people standing up there, a lot of the members and stuff, like, hey, look, there's a little pad up there playing. And I remember putting it and just watching it track. And I remember, I was like, oh man, that's going in. And sure enough, and it went in.
Oh.
And I remember hearing everybody cheering and everything else. Dude. I was 6 years, and of course, I probably came in last place in the whole tournament because I was young, right? But dude, I almost broke down in tears. I was so happy because I remember hearing everybody, and I was able to make the crowd roar like the big guys on TV and stuff. So that was like one awesome memory that I had. Now I got to ask you, what is your favorite golf memory that you've had?
It's probably similar to the one you just mentioned.
Yeah.
I've again been playing golf for over 40 years, so I have a bunch that come to mind.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to single out one, but I will. The putt that you made, buckets, right? You've got this long putt. Like you said, you don't even know if you're old enough to really be a part of that, but for you, that was a monumental experience.
Yep.
And you let the shot fly, ball leaves the putter, the excitement that exists during those 3 to 10 seconds, whatever it may be, and then buckets, right?
Yep.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
And your memories of golf, you particularly, without even knowing a lot about your golf game, are always going to circle around something like that.
Right.
Then the cool part is you get to see that in your daughter.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
So you're now kind of like recycling.
Mm.
And I think that's really cool. Again, I get a front row seat to all that. So
yeah, enough
about that. But for me, oh man. So somewhere around 2008 or 9 or so, I was playing in a member guest again without their permission. I don't want to say the golf course, but
yeah,
it was the shootout. My partner and I had ripped through the flight. We were having a great week, and we just crushed everyone. It was a cool, fun week. We were on top of our games that week, and we get in the shootout, and I am 265 out, little downwind, sitting in the fairway just like it was on a tee, and the pins in the back, water on the left, hills on the right, and my partner says to me, I think you should go for it. And I rarely go for that shot because, one, it's a little outside of my bandwidth. I don't typically hit a ball that far.
Yeah.
Had a little helping wind, and he said, dude, just get it up there. What do we have to lose, And I remember the almost euphoric feeling I had just before hitting the ball, thinking to myself, nothing can hurt me right now.
Mm-hmm.
This ball could go 80 miles into the water. I could shank it into a house and break a window.
Yeah.
And none of that mattered. It was just euphoric to me. And the ball came off as if I, drew it with a pen. Knocked it over the front bunker on the green to 9 feet for eagle. Ultimately, we win. And I've always leaned on that little moment prior to the shot, thinking, nothing can touch me right now.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's still golf. I'm having the time of my life. My partner and I have enjoyed a great week. I've made friendships. We're just living it up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where this ball goes.
Right.
And it I think actually helped the shot. So I would say that's probably, one of my fondest memories. I have many, but witnessing people hole in ones, things like that. But I think that one for me, because of the ultimate emotion that it brought out
Yeah.
was big.
Right.
And then, you know, back to you, if I may, before
Yeah.
we wrap. You know, I mean, you and I have got to know each other pretty well over the years, and what you're seeing with your daughter and her peers
Mm-hmm.
in junior golf is, man, I mean, it's just gold, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
And my wife and I get to see the smiles on the kids and the parents after every event, and the tears too, obviously. But
Yeah.
you know, at the end of it all, there's a great movement existing in youth sports and youth golf.
Yes, sir.
I'm lucky, very lucky, to have a front row seat.
Yeah.
That I hope to never relinquish until they're, you know, until I'm not north of the divot anymore.
Right. Perfect. Perfect. Now, for those listening, if they want to sign up
Mhm.
for the Kids Under Armour tour, right? What's the process for it?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So if you go to the website, which is uagolftour.com,
Mm-hmm.
you can break it down into your area. So not just for Myrtle Beach, but for any region that you're in the country. You go to the state, see if there's a league in the town you live in or nearby, and then you click on that page, and it'll show the schedule, the dates, and where it's going to be. It'll lay out the entire season for them, and then underneath that will be a banner where they can register.
Oh.
After that, it's very self-explanatory. I will say it's easier to do from a computer or an iPad than a phone.
Yeah.
But that's basically the path. The uagolftour.com site is full of great wins and great stories and some awesome photos and the All-Americans, which we have one obviously in Myrtle Beach. I think
Mhm.
that's super cool. But that's the place to go to gain the information. And then, you know, again, to be fair to our friends in a different tour, who we love and admire, the South Carolina Junior Golf Association.
Yeah.
They have chapters all over the state.
Mm-hmm.
The one here is called the Hootie.
Yeah.
And so you can go to their page as well, scjga.com, and similar situation. Locate your region and see what, you know, what's going to be taking place upcoming, and that's a summer tour, by the way.
Yeah.
But you know, they're our partners in the sense of we all have the same mission, right? We want to grow the youth game.
Absolutely.
So uagolftour.com, scjga.com, get involved.
All right. Well, guys, that's Mr. Kenn Francis. Man, I really do appreciate you being out here, being part of this first episode. Obviously, man, is very passionate about the game, especially youth sports. Remember, check out the website. Be part of this growing movement that's happening. You know, get invested with youth sports, and don't forget the playbook. All right, like I said, keep it fun. It's all about fun. As soon as there's the fun's out of the equation, kids are going to shut down on you. So, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.